Hello, I'm Robert Zinni, the host of the TBD Talk Show. Today, we have a special segment called Perseverance, Stories of Motivation and Accomplishment. Our guest is Dan Pohl, veteran PGA Tour member. Dan, how you doing?
Robert, I'm doing great. Glad to be with you. I understand you got some cool stuff going to go on, so we'll talk a little bit about that perseverance thing.
Right off the bat, Dan, I would like to know, how would you describe perseverance?
Well, Robert, it certainly breaks down into age categories in my experience dealing with younger kids, trying to get them to stay motivated, especially in the game of golf, because it's an easy game to get frustrated at. It's an easy game to not have the knowledge of. I think it's very important to have good instruction, good people that can walk these kids through specifically. I work with a lot of younger players, and I just say, this is a very difficult game, and you have got to be able to hold yourself, accountable, but also persevere when things don't happen right away for you. It's not a game where you can run, kick a soccer ball, hit a baseball, play football, hit somebody. It's really a self-infliction. Now, personally, if I go back to my time frame, my biggest perseverance was during college. So I went through being from the state of Michigan. I'd played baseball, basketball, and golf, and it was kind of a three-sport round robin type deal. When I decided to play golf at Arizona in college, you go through those frustrating times, those up and downs, and those times when your game's not sharp. You're throwing shots away everywhere, and the perseverance becomes how badly you want to swear at the golf club and swear at your opponents or whoever. So I look at it a lot of different ways. Perseverance, now that I'm had played the tour for over 30 years, and it was the time frame that you were, again, missing cuts, not making any money, being away from your home, being away from your family. You really had to persevere in a lot of different ways. So, as you talk to these athletes, you're probably going to get a lot of different ideas of what that particular word means to them. But from the standpoint of how my progression went in the game of golf, it was almost like, 5 steps up, 2 back, 2 up, 1 back. And, you had to make sure that you kind of aware of that golden ticket up there and what was going to happen, when you got there. So, as I'm, at 66 years old now, persevering is just enjoying all the things that I had done in my career and the friendships that I've made. And now, I kind of use it more as a reflection. You persevere, to me, really as you evaluate your goals, evaluate the positions that you have worked your way through. And, I got to a level that was awfully high. I was, one of the top probably 5 or 10 players in the world at one point. And then physically, I had some injuries, started to deplete my capability of playing. And if you want to really have to persevere, you have to go through, after playing at such a high level, drop down and try to figure out how to get it back.
Great insight, Dan, about perseverance, not only at an early age, like you're saying, but throughout life, especially when our bodies deteriorate and we have to kind of adjust how we approach our games or our exercise. But I wanted to hone in on a key word. You said you have to keep yourself accountable when you are persevering through stuff. So, how do you keep yourself accountable in an individualized sport like golf?
Well, it is tough, Robert. I think you really have to evaluate yourself internally. You have to be able to be very capable of really seeing where you're at. We talk about having goals and setting goals and all that, but the hard part is if you reach those goals, then where do you go? How do you readjust? How do you make those stuff, reposition in your life? First thing you do is, on the tours, you want to try to make some cuts and you want to try to make some money, and then you got to win. But now the accountability is a lot different. Now they really got to go to the high level because there's so much on the line week to week. I felt like my accountability had to be just to myself, to perform at the highest level, not give up. All those things that, from an individual aspect, you can't depend on a guy to hit a home run in the ninth inning and you win. You have to really recognize internally where you're at and where you want to go and where potentially you can't go. It's very difficult. I talk to kids all the time about, how do you practice? How do you get better? How do those things? And they really don't understand, because everybody wants that initial bang. It's just to the top of the ladder. And in a lot of cases, that is not capable of being done. So, to just say accountability or how do you account yourself, it's really being introspective of what makes you happy. Because I always believe that, in the golf business, they put so much, oh, well, he choked. He didn't pull off that last shot, and he's going to be worse for it or whatever. I never believed in that. If the guy tried the best he could, and things didn't come off, and it might have appeared that he made a bad decision or whatever, then you have to really be accountable to yourself. And I think again, as you're going to ask that same question potentially to a football player, baseball player who's got that team aspect, he may say that all I can be is accountable to throw the best pitch that I can throw if I'm the pitcher, put the best swing I can on it at a baseball coming at you. But in 18 holes, you can change accountability within the framework of a swing, a hole, a 3-hole stretch, whatever. So it's a very difficult. You're using some words that are very important to everyday growth. Accountability, perseverance, all those things, confidence. All those things are all tied into how you perceive where you're at, where you want to be, and then potentially, if I can't get there, how am I going to deal with it?
That's really, again, great insight when you're talking about keeping you accountable through 18 holes, because each shot you kind of have to play the next shot and leave the past behind. Right?
It's an incredible journey. One hole can be, a trip up to Prescott. 18 holes can be, you're driving to Texas or somewhere. But yeah, I've played rounds where I've thought I've went through, 4 or 5 different psychological breakdowns. And there's nothing you can do about it. Golf's a very, with 4 rounds of golf, you will go through a lot of different mental, you can call them mini breakdowns, but it's an interesting game for sure.
So I'm gonna keep with that thought about a mental breakdown for my next question, because I think a lot of people who aren't familiar with golf, it is some sort of a mental game, and it can be some really good lessons for everyday life. So, you played in the Masters, you're on the Ryder team. How did you deal with the pressure, whether it's from yourself, other people on tour, the media?
Well, pressure is certainly self-induced. If you're playing well, the confidence in your own abilities are there. You're still going to have to deal with the surroundings, the people, the question marks of, can you perform under those ultimate conditions? And, I always believed, and most people believe that golf is mental, that most of it is mental. I will tell you folks that golf is very physical if you're not feeling good physically. And I've had to deal with, I've had 12 operations to areas in the golf swing that are not helpful in obviously trying to swing the golf club properly. So to me, it doesn't matter how mentally strong I am, how mentally fit I am, how confident I am. Physically, I can't do some things. And so you have to make that kind of adjustment. And so, when you talk about pressure is all about being able to handle the situation as best you can, under whatever duress you may be under. Again, I dealt with some aspects as I got, a little bit more nervous. The nerves in my arms from a fusion I'd had in my neck created a little bit of stiffness and a little more tenseness in my body than what I was normally used to. So I was dealing with something that I had to really make a lot of adjustments on from the standpoint of, what to expect. When you're jumped up, when you're amped up, and that's why, to me, one of the biggest, kind of ticks me off is that people don't look at golfers as athletes. I would argue with that, with all my guts, because you have to have not only the physical capability but also the ability to make those mental adjustments and make those mental choices out on the golf course. But an athlete is all about being able to perform at a high level under whatever his conditions he is. And I just found that from the pressure standpoint, it was tough sometimes. I mean, the Ryder Cup, because some of it was team, it was pressure from the time you got to to the tournament site, to the Ryder Cup site, and the whole experience is very pressure packed. You're doing a lot of things, but you actually felt better when you were on the golf course. That's where you felt the most comfortable. Most good athletes will tell you that they're more comfortable on their field of whatever sport they're playing. Pitchers, I've been fortunate enough to know a lot of Cy Young Award pitchers, Greg Maddux, guys like that. His crown was right there on the pitcher's mound. So, not all of us dealt with pressure the best way. You make mistakes. Just it doesn't take a lot to be a little off and have that club coming into the ball a little bit shut, or and pull one versus hit a little cut shot in there. And I wish I felt like I handled pressure okay. Mm-hmm. But there's times when I'd reflect back on, and you got to, again, be honest with yourself and say, is this really what I want? Because if you're not a field goal kicker, talk to field goal kickers and ask them why they do what they do. They want to be in that position. But if they're unsuccessful, they're going to get the hammered. But so what makes that guy want to do that? What makes that guy want the ball in the bottom of the ninth in the World Series to get the third strike? It's something that you really can't put a fine line to, but you can see it. Guys that want it, they're very very confident in their own abilities.
Oh yeah, right. A few points. One, Greg Maddux was probably one of the best pitchers because of how accurate he had, and he had to switch up his mechanics as he got older. Two, I'm from Buffalo, so I know about Scott Norwood and how that can just really derail your motivation.
Why anybody would want to be a field goal kicker and put themselves, I don't know, because it just seems like if you make it, you're supposed to. If you don't.
Right. And so you just went on and explained how other people approach pressure and why they want to be in the situation. So, Dan, what made you or what motivated you to put yourself in the position for competing at a high level?
It's a very good question. And I played, baseball, basketball. I was, drafted to play some baseball out of high school, and but I loved the individual aspect of it. I really did. Whether it was I just felt like golf brought out, if you were successful, you could tap yourself on the shoulder. You could, put as much effort as you wanted into it and get that out of it. But I loved where I had two brothers that were really good athletes also. They loved the team sports a little bit better for whatever reason. I've never really asked them why you didn't, move on and try to play golf at a little bit higher level. Me, I just love the idea that if I could make something happen, I mean, I could go, throw a two-hitter in baseball and lose and be a little frustrated. On the golf course, if you can go out and you can be successful and you can, again, success is based upon your own evaluation of what success is. I never felt like I had to win a golf tournament to be considered, successful. I think, or even be called a winner. I think a winner is somebody that lives up to their capabilities and tries their hardest and doesn't give up and all those. That to me is a winner. Doesn't mean that you didn't make the putt on the last hole to earn the championship, but you certainly tried your hardest. So I love that. I love that aspect of it. I love to be looking down the fairway and have water on the left and OB on the right and try to figure out, okay, how am I going to position that in there? And once I do that, look at that second shot I'm going to have coming in here. Whether you're playing at Pebble Beach, whether you're playing at, I stood over a second shot at Pebble Beach during the U.S. Open in 1982 and had to send it out over the ocean with a 3-wood and cut it back over.
Wow.
And, and had the confidence to do it. obviously I knew the ball was going to cut, so all I had to do was make sure I made a good swing at it. So, those confidence things might fit your eye, and then all of a sudden you got a pin that's over on the front left, and you got a wedge, and you're going, oh man, how am I going to get this close? Because it doesn't fit your eye, it doesn't fit your shot shape. All those things you build on. All those things you build up to a confidence and to a level that you can be ready for the challenge of the pressure. And that's the hardest thing. I told one individual that I was a really good player in Michigan, better than maybe at my level, fairly close at the time. The problem was is that he was putting everybody in this circle with him, and he was doing it for everybody else. And he was saying, I got to play good for my grandfather, or I got to play good for my, my mom or my dad and stuff like that. I said, until you put only yourself in that inner circle, because golf's got to be that way. You have to be selfish. You have to be a little bit, arrogant, things like that. You can have them free floating all over the place.
Okay.
But if you're concerned about playing golf at a high level, there can't be a whole lot of people in that really circle of trust, some people may call it. I'll just call it that circle of selfishness, because you really have to sometimes reanalyze and reposition yourself to be somewhat selfish to be successful at the level that these guys are playing on. And then, I played with Jack Nicklaus, and you go around with Jack, and Jack didn't say a whole lot. He was bang, he's concentrating. He had his job to do on the golf course. Once you got off, man, you were his best friend. He'd talk to you, and you still have those memories of stuff like that. So I think, again, we go, you can tie confidence in there with, once your perseverance and your accountability and all these things are starting to factor into it, then your confidence and your ability to really expand and deal with the good and the bad of it. I can remember Jay Haas, great player and one of my good friends. He once said to his son, Billy, who had missed 3 cuts in a row, and he said, Billy, he said, how about this? He said, back in the day, I'd missed 4 or 5 cuts in a row. I had a family, 2 kids, hadn't made a dime in a month and a half. How do you, now let's talk about perseverance. Let's talk about that, because the game of golf brings out where you could play pretty good and not make a cut. You don't make a dime. But then, boom, all of a sudden, how do you turn that around and go from missing 2 or 3 cuts in a row to almost winning a tournament? It's like Fuzzy did that in '79. He was playing really bad going into the Masters, and bam, he goes in and wins it. So, what goes on in any individual's head is really kind of it would be interesting to have some sort of a brainwave that could kick him out, because it would definitely you'd have a lot of fodder to talk about. You'd probably be talking about, again, crazy guys versus perseverance when it comes to this. So.
Well, maybe there's a fine line between being crazy and perseverance, because I feel like you have to be some sort of crazy to go for that goal and perform at a high level, and also achieve some goals that you've reached. So let's talk about your achievements. You won a few tournaments on the tour, and then you won in 1987 the Vardon Award for the lowest average
That's
shot.
the Vardon Trophy, which is giving out through the PGA or the PGA of America as the lowest stroke average for the year. And so if you've played extremely well, there's an X amount of rounds that you have to play, and you have to do that. If you go back to just I won twice, and I had 75 top 10s. So I was up there a lot. There was a couple of one specific tournament that I really gave away. That's the one that I got away on Hartford. I've got a 1-shot lead playing 18, drive it really long down the middle of the fairway, got a 9-iron to a back right pin placement, fits my eye perfectly, and I just pulled it a little bit, and it went over the back of the green, didn't get it up and down, and lost in a playoff. To this day, the Greater Hartford Classic in Hartford, Connecticut is the one tournament I still feel like is the one I gave away. But again, when you give yourself opportunities, that's all you can do. The Ryder Cup, big experience, because that's over a 2-year time frame where they add points and everything else. But the Vardon Trophy to me is one of the kind of the lost in the shuffle. I don't call it a medal. It's actually a little coin that they give you. But but the Varden Trophy is recognized for your accomplishments all year long. And so you look at a feat like that and you say, okay, I led the tour in scoring average for a full year. You had to be doing something right. But more important than that, you weren't doing a lot wrong. You weren't giving away, it's easy to turn a 74 out on the tour into a 78 or 9 towards the end of the round if you don't care. If you're trying to make birdies to advance yourself, sometimes you make a lot of bogeys. So there are times when you look at it and you say, okay, a lot of, trophies like that or situation like that are like won by .015 strokes. Same way with a lot of earned run average, anything like that. Some of these awards can be fine tuned. So it really gave me the luxury, or actually a great feeling, that I played that well all year long and never gave away a lot of shots.
Okay, so like looking back on 1987. To you, what stood out the most of you just performing at that high level and out competing basically everybody on tour?
Well, I think it was finding the ability to play every golf course well. I think, when you start the tour, and I'd been on the tour for a while. I lost in the playoff in '82 in the Masters, and I had some, good tournaments, third in the PGA in '81 and second at the Crosby, and, before that. But I think, they always say courses for horses or horses for courses, whatever you want to call it. On the tour, there's such a variation of golf courses that you have to find a way to play, because scheduling becomes very difficult depending on family and things you got going on, where you're at in the country, all those things. So I was able to figure out that I won twice on par 70 golf courses, being the longest hitter on the tour. Most of the people would say you need 72 par and long par fives that you're knocking them on the greens and that. But I feel like Colonial. Colonial's not a driver's golf course. It's an iron player's golf course. So you had to put yourself in positions to take advantage of some of your strengths. So really understanding that every golf course lent itself to a different way of play, to when to attack, when not to attack, what par fives you go at, which par fives or which par threes, you just can't miss it in these type of scenarios. So as you experience those things and you get more comfortable, then you learn to play a variety of courses. That's why tour players very rarely would go in and play somebody the club champion at their home course. Go out to Antelope Hills. Would I come in, even if I was playing good, try to play somebody that plays there every day and is there? Right. Because they have what? They have course knowledge. They got a competence. They got all that. I was great. I always tell people, I said, you want to play me? I'll play you on any course that neither one of us had played before. Because then you have to do what? You have to evaluate shots. You have to play smart. You have to recognize when you can attack and when you can't, what the designer might have been trying to put in your eye or put in your head. And so I just found that as I got more comfortable on, throughout the 80s, throughout that time frame, I just felt like there wasn't a golf course that I couldn't make an adjustment on. And so when people talk about it being a great driver's course or whatever, most courses, if you're a good iron player, you're going to be somewhat successful. Okay. Because that's going to put you in the positions. If you play Augusta National, you can drive it. I mean, it helps to drive it long, don't get me wrong, and it helps to drive it, in a decent place. But if you can put your irons into a 2 or 3 yard area and put them left or right or have the uphill putts, now you can play. And so, I just looked at almost every golf course like that.
See, that's the mark of a really great and in-tuned player right there, because you're not only evaluating what shot you have to make, but then what the designers had to make, how they designed everything. And I really like your approach where you're not looking at, like, I played this golf course multiple times, so come and play me here. You open up the field and actually made you a versatile golfer, because then you can play any golf course.
Versatile. It's a perfect example. And we make adjustments all the time on golf courses. We make, choices on golf courses on when to attack and when not to. That's what you learn throughout the course. You can go in and it's day to day. The interesting thing is, as we know, your clubs aren't going to change. Nothing's going to change, but the winds conditions may, and the way your body's reacting that day might. So you may one day feel like, man, I'm just hitting this beautiful little cut off the tee or second shot or whatever. The next day, I'm a little haphazard. I'm pulling things. You have to make not only again a course adjustment, but a course management style. You go in with course management with the idea, this is how I would love to be able to play it. This is where I need to hit this second shot on this par 5 to the right to have the angle into this back left corner pin. The number one underrated deal on most, if you go from pro level to amateur level, would be the course management skills and making those adjustments on the fly. Which, again, if I took this guy that's shooting 68 or 67 consistently at one golf course, take him to something that's totally different, he's probably not going to be able to make those quick adjustments. And I tell people all the time, bunker sand, green texture, rough configuration, height, everything else, those are all immediate adjustments that you have to make to be successful on a week-to-week basis. And the tour players do it like nobody else.
Right, because you have a long career for 30 years.
You could take 30 guys and pick up a baseball, and all of them would throw very similar. Now the good ones, they know how to work the speeds, work all that. Those are the adjustments they make.
Right.
You're watching two great quarterbacks play in the Super Bowl, and boy, a couple of those ones where they got people chasing them and they throw that floater that's just over top of a linebacker. I mean, any human being that would ever try that would be intercepted 99.9% of the time. Right. So again, whether it's golf, whether it's baseball, football, the ability to make those adjustments and figure out how you're going to get around the golf course for not just the front nine, the back nine, but the next day, all those things, because everything's going to change. Visually, people front right pin placement, you're hitting a little 9-iron in there on Thursday, back left the next day you're hitting a 6-iron. You got to be able to really, again, make that on-site quick adjustment, and hopefully it pays off for you. And then if it doesn't, then you go back to your perseverance, your confidence, your accountability, all those type of things.
Right. Is there any advice you would give to any aspiring athlete and golfer that would help them craft their game?
Oh, sure. I mean, listen, number one is you have to understand what's in front of you. If you're taking this game up as a young kid and you need somebody to kind of talk you through what these steps are going to be, because you learn how to grip it, you learn how to, just because you've got great swing speed doesn't mean you can always play. You have to be able to evaluate yourself all the way through. And that's hard if you're 10 years old to evaluate yourself. That's where somebody else is going to help you and say, hey, that really looks good, but let's try this. You're fortunate here in this, up here in Prescott to have, to me, one of the greatest ambassadors of the game of golf that's been around, and then John Gunby.
Yes.
And, John and I go back a long ways. We talk about, not just the game, but how do you promote the game? How do you bring somebody the excitement and the passion that we have to them? And it has to be a passion. It can't be because your mom and dad want you to play. It has to be because you're challenged by this little white ball sitting down there that isn't moving, and somehow you got to make the lowest score you can. Once you're challenged by that, and you accept it, and you can deal with that, then that's when the fun comes. That's when you can kind of learn how to play the game. I never was a big practicer.
Okay.
Robert, I always like to play because I love the visuals of a golf course. I like to see what a person was trying to do out there to make to make your brain go around in circles and your eyes, either glow or not glow. But if you want to become better at it, you got to give it time. I mean, you're not just going to. There's so few Tiger Woods and all these guys that that you see on Merv Griffin's show at 3 hitting the ball 200 yards. It just ain't going to happen. It's just not that easy. And so I think the hardest thing is to to have a serious evaluation of your capabilities. And then when that happens, you can really evaluate yourself in the direction you want to go.
We were just talking about it.
Yeah, we're on live. You're coming in
You wanna
live,
come in and
baby.
say hello?
Super. There's
Sit
your
down
meal.
beside me.
No.
We are here with veteran PGA Tour member Dan Pohl, and we are doing quick hits. Dan, what inspired you to become a golfer?
My dad,
Okay. Favorite band?
Journey.
Biggest competitor on the tour?
Well, Nicholas, and in that time, my time frame, Jack was the guy you had to beat.
What is your favorite golf course that you played?
Pebble Beach.
Do you prefer Detroit Red Wings or Detroit Tigers?
Oh boy, you can't go there. I know all the Red Wings. I played a lot of golf with Joey Kosar, and Kosar would beat me up if I didn't say Red Wings.
University of Arizona or Arizona State?
Wildcats all the way, baby. Bear down.
What do you enjoy more, playing or coaching?
Playing.
Who is the worst player in this area?
Oh, John Gunby, without a doubt.
Would you like to let our viewers know what you're up to these days?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've run a golf course that I built back in Michigan. It's in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, called the Polecat. I designed it. I built it. It's got my name on it, so it's right in the central part of the state. I'm kind of running most of the operation side of that now. I give lessons. I'm very active in the social media side of it. So if you want to go to our Facebook page at Polecat Golf Course and just got photos, I've got a lot of really cool tips that I've done. I did some comparison videos between some younger these long hitters and myself from back in the 80s, and also just to get a look at something a little different than this Arizona sunshine. Obviously, we got a little snow on the ground, as you do here in Prescott, back in the middle part of Michigan. But very active in the game still. Have a great passion for it. I teach any kids from I've got kids that are 8 years old to some 75-year-olds that want to come in and want to learn how to hit it harder or longer. A lot of times you can't help them a lot with that. But, I mean, I still have a passion for the game, and that's the critical aspect of it. Most of the guys that you will find that have extended, not so much their careers, but stayed in the game of golf, do it because, some will tell you they don't know anything else. I asked Lee Trevino that one time. I said, Lee, why in the heck are you still competing? He says, Polecat. He says, I don't know anything else. I don't do it. I want to compete. And so, up until 78, 79, he was still, wanting to get out there and play. And unfortunately, because of some injuries, I haven't been able to do that. But the passion that I have now is to bring it to, individuals, to be able to talk about it, tell stories. I mean, if we sat here for another hour, I could tell you stories on bad shots, good shots, things like that. But, you got to want to be able to sit down, and you have to have a really, well, I'm going to go back to your thing. You got to, you got to have confidence. You got to be accountable for the things that you've done and also now what you're doing. And if one person's persevered as much in this golf game as I have, then they've done pretty good.
Well, Dan, thank you very much for being a guest on our show, Perseverance. I really appreciate your time, and I will definitely take you up on your offer to learn more about your passion of the game. Maybe next time I can go up to your golf course in Michigan.
Yeah, sounds good, Robert. I enjoyed it. Now, let's see if you can persevere as you try to get out of this segment.
Okay. Well, thank you for tuning into the TBD Talk Show presents Perseverance. You can find us at www.thetbdshow.com. Today's charity that we're highlighting is PGA Hope. Go to the link in our description to find out how you can donate to PGA Hope.